Hi Reddit. I'm Mike. I'm 43, and I still remember the exact sound my father's fists made on our front door at 2 a.m. You don't forget that kind of thing. You don't forget hiding behind a couch with your mom holding you close, whispering "don't move," while glass rattled and neighbors peeked through their blinds. Let me back up. I grew up with just my mom. She was young, broke, and always tired. My dad, he was more like a seasonal storm. He'd show up, raise hell, and disappear. He was never really in my life, but he never really left it either. When I was 5, he moved out for good, but gone didn't mean done. Sometimes he'd show up drunk, demanding to see me. Other times, he'd scream at my mom through the door while I sat in the hallway, clutching a blanket. She never let him in. Not once. Even when he called her a bitch. Even when he cried. And yeah, sometimes the police came. But by the time they did, he was gone. Just like always. I asked her once, maybe around 7 years old, "Why did you marry him?" She didn't answer for a long time. Then finally, because I thought love was supposed to hurt. I don't think that anymore. That stuck with me. When I was 9, she filed for divorce. Official. Legal. No more "maybe he'll change," or "let's just give it time." She said, "I'd rather raise you broke and safe than in fear." And she meant it. Things were hard after that. We moved twice. Ate a lot of pasta. Some days we didn't have heat. But the house was quiet. And that was worth everything. A couple years later, she met someone. His name was David. Tall. Calm. Drove a nice car, but never bragged about it. I didn't trust him at first. Why would I? I'd only ever seen men yell, slam things, throw blame like plates. David just sat down, talked, listened. He showed up to my basketball game once, just once, and brought a folding chair. Cheered when I missed. Said, "Good hustle. Don't worry about the shot. Get the rebound next time." No one had ever said that to me before. After a year, he moved in. 2 years later, they got married. And I called him Dad by accident once. He smiled and said, "You can call me whatever you want, but I'll always be here." And he was. Until my real dad found out. That's when the chaos started all over again. Because some men can't stand being replaced, even when they were never there to begin with. He showed up on a Saturday. I was 15. David had just finished helping me patch up an old bike I was trying to restore. We were in the driveway, hands greasy, laughing about how I'd somehow managed to install the front wheel backward again. That's when a truck pulled up. Loud engine. Headlights on. Middle of the day. I knew the truck. I'd seen it years before, parked down the street while my mom pretended she didn't see it. I hadn't seen it in a long time, but I knew. David looked up first. His face didn't change. "Friend of yours?" he asked, wiping his hands. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My biological father stepped out. Looked older, rougher, like he'd been smoked and left in the sun too long. He walked up like he owned the place. "So this is where you've been hiding?" David stood up straight, calm as always. "We're not hiding. Can I help you?" "Yeah, you can help me by staying the hell out of my son's life." He pointed at me like I was some pawn on a board. David didn't move. "Mike isn't property. He's not something you lost and now want back. I'm his real dad." "No, you're his biological father. I'm the man raising him." I thought someone would throw a punch. They didn't. David didn't even raise his voice. My mom came out of the house fast. Hair still wet. No shoes. Eyes sharp. "You're not welcome here," she said. He looked her over like she was dirt on his boots. "Nice life you built. Off of me. Off of me. You left. Remember?" He smiled. That crooked, cruel kind. "Yeah, but now I'm back." He turned to me. "Mike, you're a man now. You deserve to know the truth." I wanted to say something. I really did. But I froze. David stepped between us. "You need to leave." "Or what? You gonna call the cops?" "Only if you give me a reason." Silence. Then he turned, muttered something under his breath, and got back in his truck. Tires squealed. He was gone. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from fear. From rage. All those memories of hiding behind doors, hearing screaming in the dark. It all came flooding back. And now he thought he could just walk in and take up space again? No, not this time. David knocked on my door around midnight. "Hey, can I come in?" I nodded. He sat on the floor, back against the wall, same way he always did when we had real talks. "I won't let him near this house again." "I know, but I also won't lie to you. If you ever want to talk to him, I won't stop you." I looked at him. I already did. 15 years ago. He nodded. That quiet David nod. Good. After that driveway scene, I thought he'd back off. I was wrong. First came the letters. Not handwritten. Typed. Formal. Creepy. Dear Mike, I know you've been told things about me. I know your mother and her new husband have poisoned your mind, but I'm still your father. I never stopped being your father. They came once a week, always in plain envelopes. No return address. Signed, your real dad. My mom wanted to throw them out. David told her, let him read them if he wants. Truth always shines through desperation. He was right. The letters got messy, more emotional. By the fifth one it said, you'll regret shutting me out. Blood is blood. That fake man in your house will never love you like I do. I burned that one in the sink. Then he started showing up places. He came to my school once. Tried to talk to me after basketball practice. I saw him waiting by the parking lot fence, just watching. I froze. My friend Elijah noticed. You good, bro? That's my dad. The good one. No, the real one. I told the teacher. They called the principal. He drove off before anyone got to him. The next week, he showed up at David's office. Tried to start some story about wanting to know who's raising my boy. Security escorted him out. David sat me down that night. We might have to file something official. Like what? Restraining order. At least document it. Do it. You sure? He had 15 years to show up. Now he wants to play dad because you're in the picture. He nodded. I could tell he didn't want to scare me, but he was rattled too. The final straw? He called my grandma, David's mom. Introduced himself like they were long-lost family. Tried to ask if I talk about him, or if she thought, maybe Mike needs to reconnect with his roots. She hung up on him. Then she called my mom and said, tell that man if he ever calls again, I'll drive down and educate him personally. That woman was 5'1" and pure steel. But it was starting to get to me. Not because I wanted to see him, because he wouldn't go away. I started checking windows again, jumping at knocks. I didn't tell my mom. She was trying so hard to be strong. Didn't tell David. He already had enough on his plate. But every time I closed my eyes, I imagined him outside, watching, waiting, planning, and then nothing. No letters, no appearances, no phone calls from block numbers. Just quiet. A full month passed. Then two. I started sleeping better. Stopped flinching when the doorbell rang. Even deleted the folder I'd made of all the scanned letters, just in case. It felt like he'd finally moved on. David said, some people throw a tantrum when they lose control. And when no one claps, they leave. We all exhaled a little. Then David's father had a stroke. We got the call on a Sunday morning. David dropped everything and flew out of state to be with him. I stayed home with my mom. She had work. I had school. And besides, David said he didn't want us sitting in a hospital room 800 miles away when we couldn't do anything. I'll be back in a few days, he said. Just hold it down. We did. Until Wednesday night. It was around 10:30 p.m. Mom was folding laundry. I was on the couch. Then, a knock at the door. Heavy. Familiar. We both froze. She looked at me. I already knew. We didn't move. Another knock. Open the door, Kelly. I know you're in there. His voice. Slurred. He was drunk. Mike, it's me. Your father. You're really gonna ignore your own blood. Mom grabbed her phone. I walked toward the door and looked through the peephole. He looked worse than before. Bloated. Sweaty. Alone. And holding something. A bottle. He knocked again. Harder this time. David's not here now, is he? That made my blood run cold. He knew. Cops came fast. Neighbors must have heard it. Same story as always. By the time they pulled up, he was already back in the truck. They didn't catch him. But we filed another report. David flew back the next morning. When I saw him walk through the door, I felt like I could breathe again. He hugged my mom, then hugged me, tighter than ever. We'll get the order. I should have done it the first time. You couldn't know. I should have. A week later, the judge signed the restraining order. No contact. No approach. No more surprise visits. It felt solid. Official. Safe. Or so we thought. Because just when we thought we'd seen the last of him, he found another way in. A letter addressed, not to me, but to the state registrar. And just like that, he opened a legal request. For visitation rights. We got the summons 2 weeks later. Family court. Petition, visitation request filed by biological father, Ronald M. He wanted legal rights to reconnect with me. I was 16, still a minor. Still not legally able to say no without a judge's permission. My mom sat at the kitchen table in silence for what felt like an hour. David stood in the corner with his arms crossed, jaw tight. He's not doing this because he wants a relationship, he finally said. He's doing this to punish you. He was right. This wasn't love. This was power. Court day came fast. We sat on one side of the room, me, Mom, and David. He sat across from us. He wore a cheap suit and that same smug look he'd always had when someone else had to clean up his mess. When the judge asked if he had anything to say, he stood up and went full performance mode. I made mistakes. I admit that. But I'm a changed man. I've sought counseling. I've stayed sober. I just want to know my son, to rebuild what was lost. I almost laughed out loud. The counselor he claimed to have seen later submitted a letter, saying Ronald had shown up twice and then stopped coming. Then it was our turn. David asked if he could speak. The judge allowed it. He stood up, buttoned his jacket, looked straight at Ronald, then straight at the judge. I'm not here to erase this man. I'm not Mike's biological father, but I've been his father for nearly a decade. I was there when he broke his arm. I taught him how to drive. I filled out his FAFSA. I sat through every school conference, dentist appointment, and emotional breakdown. Not because I had to, but because I chose to. He paused. Being a parent isn't about DNA. It's about presence. And this man has never been present. Even the clerk stopped typing for a second. When it came time for me to speak, the judge asked if I had anything I wanted to say. I stood, hands shaking. I don't want to see him. Ever. He scares me. And he doesn't know anything about me. Do you want David to continue acting as your parental figure? The judge asked. He already is. The judge leaned back, adjusted his glasses, and said, Request for visitation is denied. Mr. M is to have no further contact with the minor until his 18th birthday, and even then, only at the minor's discretion. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in months. Ronald just sat there, jaw clenched. He didn't argue. He didn't even look at me. He just stood up and walked out. It felt like a final door had been slammed shut. But I was wrong, because he still had one last plan. By the time I turned 19, I was in my second year of college. Far from home, living in a tiny apartment, working part-time, doing okay. David still checked in every week. My mom texted every morning like clockwork. It felt normal, stable. I hadn't heard from Ronald in almost 3 years. Not a letter, not a phone call, not a shadow across the driveway. I figured he gave up, or maybe moved on to torment someone else. Then one day, I got a voicemail from a number I didn't know. It was short. Hi, this is Ellen Green, estate attorney for Ronald M. Please contact me at your earliest convenience regarding a legal matter. My stomach dropped. I called her back. He passed away 3 days ago, she said. Massive heart attack. You're listed as next of kin. Excuse me. You're named in the will. Why would he? I think you should come in. There's something you'll want to see. I called David first. Do I even go? Go, he said, but take someone with you. And don't sign anything until you understand it. I went. The office was sterile and quiet. Ellen was polite, professional, clearly tired of dealing with weird family drama. She slid me the file. He left you the house. And everything in it. I blinked. What house? The one he died in. Upstate. It's in your name now. I didn't know what to say. Apparently, Ronald never remarried. No other kids. No siblings left. Just me. The son he tried to legally control and emotionally blackmail. Now suddenly the heir to his whole damn life. I laughed out loud. He really thought this would mean something. Ellen smiled awkwardly. There's a handwritten note. She passed me a sealed envelope. Inside was a letter. Just one line. Now you'll remember me. That was it. Nah, I'm sorry. Nah, I tried. Just one final flex. I had no intention of keeping the house. But I drove up there a week later. Just to see it. Small place. Smelled like old beer and regret. Stacks of unopened mail. A recliner stained with something I didn't want to identify. Framed photos, not of me. Just him. Alone. He died the way he lived. Loud, angry, and alone. I walked through the house for maybe 10 minutes. Then turned around and left. Called Ellen and told her to put it on the market. Donate anything useful, I said. Burn the rest. I didn't want his legacy. I didn't need his name. All I wanted was peace. But that wouldn't last either. Because a month later, his girlfriend showed up. And she wasn't just grieving. She was furious. She found me through Facebook. Sent a friend request first. I ignored it. Then came the DM. We need to talk. Ronald would be disgusted with how you're handling his death. I didn't respond. 3 days later, I got served. A lawyer showed up at my apartment door with papers. Her name was Lila. claiming to be Ronald's fiancée. Said they lived together. She took care of him. That the house, the one left to me, should have been hers. She wasn't just angry. She was out for blood. I called Ellen, the estate attorney. Can she do this? Anyone can sue, she said. But that doesn't mean they'll win. Apparently, the will was airtight. Dated, signed, witnessed. No mention of Lila. She wasn't even listed as an emergency contact at the hospital. But she had stories. I helped him get sober. I was with him every day. He told me the house was mine. She wanted half the estate. Half of what? An old house, a dusty recliner, and a collection of broken promises? Still, court isn't about emotions. It's about proof. And Lila was digging. She posted on social media, publicly dragged me, called me the bitter, estranged son, who only showed up when there was something to take. Worse, she started messaging David, somehow found his business profile and wrote, "Funny how you stepped in as dad, while the real one was still alive. Shame it takes death for vultures to land." He never answered, but I saw it, and for the first time since Ronald died, I felt rage again. Not at her, at him. He could have fixed this. He could have left it clean, but he chose mess. Even in death, he was still pulling strings. Then came the worst part. She showed up to our house. Not Ronald's. Ours. My mom's. Pulled up in some beat-up SUV. Knocked on the door like she belonged there. I wasn't home. My mom was. Later, she told me. She stood there for 5 minutes rambling about how she deserved answers. That she was Ronald's real family. That you didn't even visit him in the hospital. My mom looked her dead in the eye and said, "He didn't visit because he spent his whole life recovering from that man. And if you think you're entitled to anything, you clearly didn't know him as well as you thought." Lila stormed off. Didn't show up again, but her lawyer did. We were set for court. David offered to fly in and sit with me. "You shouldn't face this alone. She's just noise," I told him. So was Ronald. Look how far that went. The courtroom was small. No jury. Just a judge, 2 lawyers, and a gallery with 5 people, including David and my mom. Lila wore black, like it was a funeral, like she was the grieving widow of a man who ever deserved to be mourned. Her lawyer opened with a speech about love, commitment, and unjust exclusion. She dabbed fake tears with a tissue she didn't even bother to wrinkle. Then she took the stand. "I was his world," she said. "He told me stories about his son, how he wanted to fix things, how he wished he'd done better. I supported him when no one else would." "Did he say he'd leave you the house?" her lawyer asked. "Yes, many times." "Do you have anything in writing?" "No. He didn't trust paper." "Right. He didn't trust paper. But he signed a legal will naming me." Then it was my turn. Ellen didn't want me to testify, but I asked her to. I wasn't going to let this woman rewrite my story. I walked to the stand, sat down, looked at the judge, then at Lila. "Ronald was my biological father," I said, "but he was never my dad. He hit my mom. He showed up drunk in the middle of the night. He screamed through doors and scared the hell out of me before I even hit kindergarten." Lila rolled her eyes. I kept going. "He didn't come to birthdays, or school plays, or doctor's appointments. He didn't send cards. He didn't call. The only thing he ever gave me was trauma. David's the one who taught me to shave. David showed me how to change a tire, how to file taxes, how to not become the man who left. So when Ronald died, I didn't feel sad. I felt done. I didn't take the house to gain something. I took it because it was dumped on me. I never asked for it, but it was mine, legally. And honestly, emotionally, it never was his either. It was just another place he poisoned." I looked at the judge. She wasn't family. She was just someone who got close enough to believe his version of the story. And I'm sorry for her, truly, but that doesn't entitle her to anything. The room was dead quiet. No one clapped. No one needed to. Even the judge looked like he'd aged 5 years during her side's testimony and came back to life halfway through mine. He dismissed the case the same day. The will stands. The estate is not subject to change. Petitioner's claim is denied. Lila stormed out before I even stepped down. Didn't look back. Didn't say goodbye. She left exactly like he used to when things didn't go his way. Outside, David gave me a long look. "You good?" "Getting there. You sounded like a grown man in there." Took me long enough. I hadn't heard her name in months. Thought she'd moved on. Found someone new. Started her life over. Like people do when they lose in court and realize they got nothing left to throw. Then my mom sent me a message. You're not gonna like this. Attached was a photo. A table set up from a wedding reception. On it, Ronald's old vintage record player. His favorite ashtray. Yes, he had a favorite. And a framed black and white photo of him and me. And maybe age 5, when I didn't even remember being taken. Right under the photo, in loving memory of the man who brought us together. I almost dropped my phone. I found out through a mutual contact that Lila had gotten engaged fast, like really fast. And her wedding? It was being held at a vineyard about 2 hours from where Ronald's house used to be. A private thing. Classy, but designed for attention. The memory table, right near the entrance. The fake tribute, fully staged. I didn't want to go. David, of course, was calm about it. Let it go, he said. She's just chasing ghosts. But my mom? Different story. She's using your image. Your story. In the name of a man who did nothing for you. As some twisted way to make her look like the victim. And that was it. I didn't want revenge. But I wanted truth. So I made a call. See the venue? It was owned by an old friend of David's. They served in the Navy together. One call later, I had a quiet meeting set up. We didn't crash the wedding. Didn't yell. Didn't flip tables. We just asked the manager to quietly remove the tribute table. And when Lila demanded to know why, she was told, you don't have legal rights to display the image of someone else's minor child in public. Especially not after losing a court case regarding that family. Boom. She threw a scene. In her dress. In front of guests. Crying about how he was her soul. And how they don't understand what we had. And how his son is trying to erase him. And someone, no idea who, caught on video. It hit Reddit 3 days later under. Bride loses it when ex's family shuts down fake memorial. Went viral. The comments? Brutal. Wait, she used a picture of his kid? This is like Narcissist Olympics. Ronald sounds like a disaster. For the first time ever, people saw it. Not just my story, but the truth. Lila deactivated her socials a week later. Never heard from her again. And Ronald? He finally stayed gone. Not because of death, but because I stopped letting him live through me. I'm 43 now. Married. 1 kid. Mortgage. Car payments. Work emails I ignore too long. Life, in all its chaotic, peaceful normalcy. David still calls me every Sunday. My mom spoils her grandson like it's her full-time job. And I haven't thought about Ronald in maybe 2 years. Until the letter came. No return address. Familiar handwriting. Inside, a short note. If you ever have a son, tell him about me. Don't let him forget who he came from. No signature. Just those words. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because of course. Of course he found a way to haunt me one more time. I showed it to my wife. She read it, sighed, and said, "Is that what you're going to do?" I thought about it. Because for years, I tried to outrun him. Erase him. Deny him space in my story. But now I see the truth. I didn't become who I am because of him. I became who I am in spite of him. David raised me. My mom protected me. Ronald just existed. Like a storm you survive. You don't honor it. You don't name your kid after it. You just build something stronger afterward. So no, I won't tell my son about Ronald. But I will tell him about David. How he showed up. How he taught me that being a man isn't about blood or noise or fists. It's about showing up even when no one claps for you. It's about being the one who stays. The last box of Ronald's things is still in my attic. One day, maybe I'll toss it. Or maybe I'll leave it up there forever. As a reminder, that man tried to define my beginning. But he never got to write my ending. And that's all the legacy I need. See you later.